Welcome to the Rebirthing Breathwork Summit, a free online event where you'll learn to integrate the power of conscious energy breathing to transform your mind, body, and spirit. Share this online event with your friends and family and join the conversation inside our Facebook group, Rebirthing Breathwork Summit. And now your host, Devendra Narayan.
Welcome everyone to the Global Rebirthing Breathwork Summit. This session is called Rebirthing Breathwork, the bigger picture. And our guest speaker is Virginia Peace Arnold. Peace is a close associate of Leonard Orr, having spent 3 years in full-time training under Leonard's direction, followed by an additional 12 plus years in community outreach, organization, social media building, and otherwise supporting the expansion of rebirthing breathwork and rebirthing worldwide, as well as maintaining an ongoing relationship with Leonard over the course of his lifetime. Peace has a lifetime of experience as a practitioner of traditional healing arts, including folk herbalism, yoga, qigong therapy, traditional Chinese medicine, rebirthing breathwork, and grief recovery. Peace served as director of complementary modalities at Comprehensive Pain Management in New York City, and is a founding member and vice president of the newly forming Rebirth International Breathwork Association. Welcome, Peace.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Peace, many of our listeners and viewers on this summit know already about rebirthing breathwork. But how would you describe rebirthing breathwork to someone who is not familiar with this style and modality of breathing?
So I would say that rebirthing breathwork is an esoteric breathing technique rediscovered by the rebirthing community, assembled by Leonard Orr in the 1970s to explore ways of releasing stored trauma in the body-mind complex. It is both energizing and relaxing. It is a meditation on the breath and ultimately surrendering to the wisdom of the body built into the breathing mechanism. And it was defined and refined by Leonard Orr over the course of his lifetime.
Thank you, Peace. So 1970, the year that you gave out, that's way back. You spent so much time with Leonard, even going on trips to India with him, spending so much time in his training. Take us through the foundation, take us through the roots of this transformational practice.
Yes. So I met Leonard in 2005. I was not there in the 1970s, but I've spent a lot of time with Leonard and in the United States at the training center and organizing for him, and then in communication with him on almost a daily basis for most of 15 years. So I have absorbed a lot of the history. And basically, the rebirthing breathwork movement comes out of Leonard's journey, which begins with his interest in physical immortality. And this is an idea that he first encountered probably, I think he was a senior in high school, through Christian scripture. And he went on to an in-depth study of Christian scripture, which led him to learning about and continuing his study through other more ancient scriptures. And this ultimately led him to India and the study of immortal yogis and other yogic practitioners who were demonstrating human potential beyond what we would consider possible or normal. And so from there, Leonard went into practicing, putting into practice what he was seeing and his own personal exploration of human potential and expanded physical potentials. And the results of his experiments he began to share with people. And then that brings us to the 1970s, where he invites people to move in with him in a large Victorian home in a Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco in the 1970s. So that's a little bit of the background that, basically led up to Leonard becoming a prominent figure in the human potential movement, which was flourishing at that time in the United States.
That's wonderful piece. You said human potential movement. Would you go a little bit more in depth and explain to our global audience what do you mean by that?
We are limited by our own, limitations, that self-imposed limitations, things we believe, our thoughts, our beliefs, our fears, habitual behaviors that we develop, and our body develops patterns of tension that limits our behaviors, what we're willing to experience. And so the rebirthing, now I'm going back to rebirthing, but the breathing technique is about freeing the breathing mechanism, which is the primary way we suppress our own emotions and block ourselves in physically in our body. So really it's about relaxing and allowing the breathing mechanism to do the work of processing through our experiences. And our processing has been short-circuited for most of us, especially through our early childhood, but then it's reinforced throughout our later adult life. And until we break free of these bonds, we are not free to really develop to our full expanded potential. So the human potential movement has been going on for quite some time, but in the 70s was a very experimental time in the United States. And so that's when this human potential and this study of what's possible outside of, the restrictions, self-imposed restrictions, much of which are imposed through unhealed traumas getting passed on from one generation to the next. Some people never question these things, but others do. And in the 70s, that willingness to, break out of the box and challenge, beliefs that were handed down to us flourished. And there are many, so Ram Dass was part of that. Jean Houston was part of that, discovering the storylines, the myths that we live our lives by. So there are a lot of different ways, explorations of how we can free ourselves to experience more of our greater potential.
Mm. So you said something about our beliefs binding us, our mindset, the things that we carry from our childhood, from our adulthood, even perhaps past lives and family that we take birth in. Mm. And this is, so speak to us a little bit more, as Leonard found breathing to be one of the key modalities to, you said, free ourselves from our beliefs. How is that connected? Could you give an example of how somebody who is carrying those belief systems, how would that beliefs embody in someone, and why would that restrict somebody from living to their free, full potential?
Okay, wow, you have a lot in that question. So the first thing I want to say is Leonard would say that it's the relaxation that allows our body to discharge the stress. Okay, so the breath, can facilitate relaxation, right? But we can also hold our breath and build up more tension and suppression, the energy, the effort involved to hold down an emotion, to keep it from coming up, right? Where an emotion is a release of energy, it's a metabolic event. The breathing mechanism is the fan, the ventilator fan of that metabolic event. So what people do is they short circuit that and go up into a reactionary energy, does, you know, what in the grief recovery movement we call short-term energy releasing behaviors, right? Ways of distracting ourselves from the uncomfortable feeling in our body. So the breathing is a way of relaxing and allowing ourselves to experience physical sensation. First, the physical sensations that are generated by the increasing the flow of qi in the body, which this breathing, circular breathing technique generates, right? So the inhale is stimulating, the exhale is relaxation. If you're doing the method properly, which means to release the exhale. You're breathing in, your musculature is expanding the space, the breathing space, and then you let it go. Boom, and it snaps back. So every time you're exhaling, it's a wave of relaxation through your body. Every time you're inhaling, it's the qi flowing, keeps the qi energy flowing in your body. And then ultimately that snapping that exhale free, dropping the exhale, gives the breathing mechanism an opportunity to take over, to come back on board, you know, and allow that function of cycling energy and letting an emotion disperse, right? To become alive again, rather than overruling it with physical tension. And we're squeezing something, we're tightening something to suppress an emotion. Where ultimately the goal is not the goal to never have an emotion. That's a normal physical thing. You know, we're mammals, we feel, right? So, but to be able to let that emotion be there and process it in a breath. And that doing that keeps us present. When we are holding our breath and struggling, we're not present. People who are in a reactionary response they're not present in mind. The presence of mind is gone, right? They're caught up in some short-term energy release, some way they've figured out how to distract themselves. So where they're not present. So this is what we really all need to do, is to learn to return to presence of mind and move from presence of mind, where we're guided from an internal wisdom that is a deep knowing that comes out of silence. It doesn't come out of the thinking mind. Thinking mind has its purpose, but it's not presence of mind. You know, thinking mind needs to be operating under the guidance of presence of mind and not the other way around.
Wow, there was so much information packed in that answer. So allowing the breath to relax us, to free us in a conscious way. You know, I have had experience with rebirthing breathwork, and even a single session, just a single hour-long session, profoundly changes one's life. And I'll speak for myself, because the kind of visions, the connection that you make with your ancestors, even letting go of stuck energy, which is very physical, by the way. It's not an esoteric concept. It's you can feel that energy stuck inside the body as a sensation, as a pain, and you can feel the release of that pain and energy as you're breathing in the rebirthing. Please talk to us. Why is this so powerful? Just one single session of breathing, conscious, connected, circular breathing. Why is it doing what's it doing?
Well, you know, we tend to think of something so simple as the breath. We take it you know, as given. We don't really give it much attention. We take it for granted. I guess that's what I'm looking for. We don't give it much attention, but it is so powerful. It, you know, it is our connection to the physical body, which is, you know, which is our connection to earth, because the physical body is earth. So if you want to be grounded, you ground in the physical body. If you are breathing, right, and you are taking your attention away from your thoughts and becoming aware of your physical body expanding and releasing, that kind of takes you out of your habits, right? You're focusing on something else. And as I said earlier, the release of that exhale creates a window of opportunity. In order for you to let go of the exhale, what are you doing to let go of the exhale? Once you release it, what are you doing to your breathing mechanism? Nothing. Right? You're out of the way. And that's that you're giving the wisdom of your body an opportunity to get in there and take over, take back its function, right? So once it does that, it's going to clear as much stored trauma, stored stress as it possibly can, right? And so in a 1 hour session, the sessions are often longer than an hour, but if you can, you know, how much of that hour is your breathing mechanism really free? But once your breathing mechanism is free and kind of takes over on its own, you're throwing off years of stress, and it's out of your control. You're out of the way. And so you don't know. So Leonard used to say, you're only going to let go of what you're ready to let go of. But once you give your body an opportunity to work, to function, it's going to let go of a tremendous amount of tension, of physical stored tension. Because many people, before they get to rebirthing breathwork, have done a lot of personal work on themselves, personal growth. So they're ready to let go and to throw off quite a lot. And I can speak for myself. Through years of yoga and qigong and everything I was doing in my personal life, how much I had changed, I had learned to manage my angst, the stress and the trauma in my body. But when I started doing these individual sessions where I felt safe enough to let go, right? When I felt safe with the person I was with and in the environment I was with, it was just a mind-blowing experience. And my life changed because those things that I had learned to manage, those stressors in the body, they released. They actually physically released the patterns in my body. And it was the first time. And people who knew me for years remarked at how I had changed. It wasn't just me noticing. People would say, wow, you're so calm. What's changed? Well, finally, all the work I had done on myself in the past, I had been able to really reap the benefits of it after rebirthing breathwork, after the breathwork. So there's a lot of the work on the mind I had done. This wasn't new to me with Leonard, although Leonard brought a lot of really interesting things I'd never, heard of before to me. But, new thought, and that thought is creative. This I knew. I'd been working with these concepts and changing my mind and my understanding for a very, very long time.
So please, in the rebirthing breathwork movement, what is the importance of the facilitator? I know these are one-on-one sessions that's generally preferred. I think maybe you can speak to how Leonard taught it, is one-on-one. And it's a powerful experience because for that facilitator, that guide, the teacher to be there, guiding you on this journey, because not everything pleasant come out when you are breathing this way. There are sometimes moments that your body is jolted, perhaps your mind is jolted. And then for that facilitator to be there, talk us through Leonard's way of training his teachers to be facilitators, and why is it important for that facilitator to be there?
So with, I think the one thing that is very specific to rebirthing breath work, as Leonard defined it and taught it and formulated it, is that everybody deserves the full attention of the person who's companioning them through this journey. Someone who's had experience, who's been through this. It's not theory. They didn't learn just theory. They've learned through practicing this themselves. So they deserve the 100% attention of that facilitator. And that creates a bubble of safety for that person who's breathing. And plus, what an experience. How many people have really had the undivided attention of one person over the course of their lifetime, right? And it's in our distracted society. So that is one of the main differences, what defines Leonard's, Leonard Orr as he developed this modality over the course of his lifetime. In the beginning, he experimented with groups and said it's just not possible to give that kind of quality of attention that someone needs to feel safe, unless they have your full attention. So that's the important thing about having that. Was there more to that question?
No, I'm just thinking about the answer that you gave, in which you said, how many times do you get an undivided attention from anyone in your life? And here you have the opportunity. So that makes perfect sense why such transformation will come out in one-on-one session, because there is a person who is there to guide you, to help you and facilitate the transformation for you. So you can trust the voice that's guiding you.
And I want to say one more thing about that, because I'm an empath. So, and I believe most people to some degree are, that we can feel the emotions in the room. And our literature demonstrates that. I walked into the room and the air was thick with tension. We can feel the emotions in the room. And as someone who is aware of that, and someone, it's very hard for me to relax and to breathe and relax and let go in a room with everybody else going through their own emotional experience. I'm not saying it's impossible for some people, I don't know, but I know that for me, I'm not going to really relax and let go in a room full of people. So, and there are a lot of people who are empaths that would have that same experience. And there are other people who don't know the extent of their empathic experience, because they haven't really sorted through what's me and what am I picking up in the room. They don't know the difference, right? So if you walk into a room with a line of guitars on the wall and pull the C string, all the C strings in the room are going to start vibrating. So some people feel that, well, this is going to trigger and facilitate. Okay, maybe that might be the case. I don't know. But for me, it's like, I just want to hold my breath and, it's too much feeling. It's enough for me to feel my own feelings in a rebirthing session, but maybe down the road, that might be something that might be a fun experiment, but it hasn't really been too much fun for me up until this point. So that's another piece of it. It's people are, and I think the bottom line is people have different goals and purposes. Remember what Leonard's goal was. It was to clean the energy body and free the breathing mechanism and release this stored tension. That was the goal. And if with rebirthing breathwork, it's more than just the breath. Leonard works with all the elements: earth, air, fire, and water. So soaking in the bath twice a day. And if you want to clean your energy body, I mean, why would you get in the bathtub with 6 people, right? It's the same thing with the breathing. Why would you, what's the point? What's the purpose? So that's one perspective, one view, where the purpose is to not only live free the breathing mechanism and clear the, and release emotions, but also to fill your body with a fresh flow of energy. So why not have a clearer space? So when in my apartment, when I have people in my apartment, that's where I work, I have the window open. I have a filter on the window, on my window, right? So the air is not bringing in the city soot. It's the air. I have an air cleaner purifier going, right? I mist the room so that particles come down. I'm going to create that space so that people are going to get as pure an experience as they possibly can in New York City, right? Or anywhere. It's New York City, it's one thing, it's dust somewhere else, but emotional vibrations and frequencies are real. And if I'm cleaning my energy body, I don't see any reason to be doing this with other people. So, and it's different perspectives. Other people are doing it for different reasons, and that's okay.
So I was just envisioning with that answer you gave, Peace, that there would be no swimming pools in Leonard's training, right?
But lakes, he did
Lakes,
often
okay.
go to lakes and hot springs, and he would often load people into however many cars were there and drive them off to the natural body of water, and everybody jumps in. But yeah, people were pretty much one-on-one in the bathtub.
So Leonard struck the string in the 1970s with this breathwork movement. What else has sprung out of it? I know a lot of breathing techniques that came after rebirthing has brought in the conscious connected breathing into
Yes.
their modality. So speak to us with this greater movement, right? What is the future of rebirthing breathwork, and where do you see it going?
Well, it's a worldwide community. The numbers are of people practicing and using this conscious connected breathing I couldn't even begin to tell you how many millions of people are doing it. And this building of community is vital piece of raising the consciousness of the human mind, in terms of its impact on the mass consciousness. And I think what we're seeing now, going on in the world is just this big, everybody's triggered and yelling. It's all their suppressed stuff is coming up, and there's a target and there's a target, and it's on the one hand, you really get to see what you haven't cleared yet, because I find myself like rah, 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 reacting. But if your emotional reactions come up and you bring consciousness to it, it's an opportunity to clear and to return to presence and heart and centered, and to see ourselves as one humanity. When we were all separated in various corners of the world before the people became more mobile, it's easy to get, to really be entrenched in a viewpoint, and to, but we're way beyond that now with the communications the way the way they are today. People are aware of other cultures, and the world is getting smaller. We can see that we're one human family. And I think that this is one of the functions of building spiritual community, is we support each other in this more expanded, enlightened, loving view of humanity. And the bigger the consciousness movement grows, the bigger space we can hold for others to heal. We join in as the Buddha, the budding Buddhas, to hold the presence of mind for other people to find that presence, to experience us, and to share that. So I think, and in terms of these larger, groups coming together, and whatever they're doing to facilitate community building is a good thing, even if it's not the same as, even if they have different ways of doing it. It's a good thing, because that's ultimately what we want, to come together as a human family.
Yeah, and as mammals, we crave for that human connection, right? We thrive in a group, we thrive in a supported environment.
Yes.
And 2020 has been a very interesting year. I see it as a challenging year, and I also see it as a year of tremendous transformation. Yes. How has this year been for you? I just want to know what has, because you are so people person, you want to work with one-on-one. How has this time changed your rebirthing practice and your healing touch for others?
Well, when this happened, I felt a little, I didn't want to say it, but it hasn't changed my life very much. And I have the opportunity to be in Virginia, because when I work with people now, it's remotely online. So it's kind of freed me up to be out of the city, which I really appreciate, to be able to be in nature more. My experience with Leonard has been preparing me for these whole 15 years. So I look at this as more people are living a lifestyle that I've been living. So where they're not so much, running around, and they're home more, and they're living a quieter life, and they're, out of the restaurants, and, not hanging around in, densely populated environments as much. And, so this really hasn't been, very much of a change for me, I have to say. I mean, I have a lot of compassion for people who are struggling with this. And I'm just holding the idea that something good will come out of this.
That's such a beautiful thought and idea piece. So I would love for you to walk us through a little practice for our global audience.
Yes. The breathing practice that I would like to share or invite you to participate in is something we already know. And I call it the long, deep letting go breath. Others might call it a sigh of relief or a sigh of release. And Leonard, if anyone who has spent any amount of time with Leonard, will be very familiar with his. All right. So it's this nice, long, deep inhale, and you just let it go. And this is already 3/4 of the circular breath, right? If you put 2 or 3 of those together, you're doing a circular rhythm. But this one particular technique of moves big concentrations of energy. It gives your breathing mechanism a good release, right? It's very grounding and centering. And ultimately, one of these breaths can return you to presence of mind. In the beginning, it might, or in certain circumstances, it might take a couple of them. But ultimately, the goal is to be able to take one nice, long, letting go breath and let that bring you to center. And then just follow the natural breathing rhythm, the natural flow of your breath. And don't believe anything you think unless you chose it intentionally. And those are my parting words, except thank you.
Thank you, Peace. That was such a wonderful conversation. If our audience wants to learn more about you and your work, where can they look you up? Do you have a website? Do you have a Facebook page?
Yes, I have a website. It's rebirthingnyc.com. And I am the administrator of the Rebirth International Community Group on Facebook. And I'm also an administrator of Rebirthing and Breathwork group on Facebook, among other places I have my hands in.
The very last thing that I want to ask you, which I forgot to ask you, is you also run trainings for people who want to train in rebirthing breath work. Could you just quickly tell us when those trainings usually are? Now, these are unusual times, but those are usually held in person. They are several weeks long. Could you speak a little bit about where they are held, when they are held, or when the next one would be?
Yes, right now we are forming, since Leonard has passed and the structure in Virginia is dissolved, Heike Strombach, Sarah Dawn, Irene Jove, and myself are among, and we are joined by Chitra and Annie Boyd. There are more people. There are more and more people from the rebirthing community involved, but our goal is to preserve Leonard's formula, the training as he developed it over the course of his life. And we're forming the Rebirth International Breathwork Association. And I will be a part of that in organizing worldwide trainings in this particular style. So right now we're in the process of getting our new website up and going. But in the meantime, you can just contact me and I will be posting the trainings. Heike is offering trainings in Germany. She's also doing online, we're adapting the trainings to an online format. And there's one ongoing in Brazil right now. Chitra's offering trainings in India. So basically right now, I'm still working one-on-one. I ran the trainings when I was living at the training center, and I used to do trainings in New York but right now I'm not personally holding trainings. My energy is going towards creating an organization for this particular training format that was developed by Leonard. And that's Rebirthing Breathwork. It's a Rebirth International Breathwork Association. So you'll if you go to the Facebook groups, I have a Facebook page, Rebirthing NYC, a quiet little corner of Manhattan, right? So you can find me there, but also at Rebirth International Community Facebook group, and I'll post everything there. My email is rebirthingnyc@gmail.com, and I love talking to people and connecting and communicating, and so I'm there to help and to put people together, networking. So just reach out.
Thank you, Peace. That was such a wonderful, insightful conversation. Thank you for all your blessings, all the words, all the knowledge that you shared. You have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you. Thank you for doing this. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you for joining the Rebirthing Breathwork Summit, brought to you by Cultivate Prana. To learn more, visit cultivateprana.com or rebirthingbreathworksummit.com.